All right, everybody, what is good? What is going on? You are listening to Triple Threat Wrestling Radio Live right here on Ustream.tv. It is Thursday, May 23rd, 2013. Hope everybody's having a good week thus far, having a good Thursday. As we draw near Memorial Day weekend, I am your host, Kenny C, joining you for the next hour. About the slight delayed start, but here I am nonetheless. Had to sort things out real quick. Tonight, I recap SmackDown, Extreme Rules, Raw, Main Event, and Impact, which just went off the air a couple of minutes ago. And live interview with indie pro wrestler Cody Jones. He joins me, and I got an update on the Friday premiere of Triple Threat Wrestling Radio. I have an update on the Friday debut show. I'm going to get into all that throughout the hour. But before I recap SmackDown first, I would like to take this time and send my thoughts, my prayers, and my condolences to those that were affected in the Oklahoma tornadoes, which was just a few days ago. I do have family that lives there. Luckily for them, they were nowhere near the tornado and they are safe. So that is some good news. Um, as for everybody else, I pray that you guys and girls get all the care that you need and just move forward. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a struggle. It's gonna be a grind. I just pray that those that were affected by a tornado can mentally recover. I mean, let's face it. A lot of people lost their lives over it, and a lot of people were hurt. And for those that are still standing, at least you still have your life. I mean, you can lose a house, you can lose cars, you can lose your belongings. You can replace those. You can replace your car. You can replace belongings. You can't replace a life. And to those that are recovered, I pray that you move forward from this and get all the care and the help that you need. As I'll go ahead and recap SmackDown, but I just wanted to start the show by sending my thoughts and prayers to those that were affected from the Oklahoma tornado. So, so on to recapping SmackDown from this past Friday night. We start off with that. Started off with Miz TV. Miz hosted his segment with special guest Randy Orton and Big Show as they talked about their match coming up at Extreme Rules, which turned out to be an Extreme Rules match, and things got a little tense. Then came the appearances of Del Rio, Henry, Zeb Coulter, Swagger, which pretty much led into a six-man tag team match later that evening. The Shield gets some momentum leading up to their matches at Extreme Rules as they go on to defeat the Usos. That's the team of Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. The Miz continue his in-ring returns as he goes on to defeat Damien Sandow. Of course, Damien Sandow, the on and off tag team partner of Cody Rhodes, which was his opponent for Extreme Rules. Then you got the Tons of Funk getting a little payback. Went on to defeat the Primetime Players. Of course, Primetime Players defeated Tons of Funk on Raw of last week. So Tons of Funk, Brodus Clay, and Tensai. If you think about it, Tensai, you got the veteran in Tensai, formerly known as A Train, and then you got the likes of Brodus Clay, who people only remember him as the bodyguard of Snoop Dogg. Now he's making a name for himself, and of course, when he was at NXT, and then he was also a part of Del Rio. He was mentored by Del Rio. Now you mentored by Tensai, and if you think about it, Tensai and Brodus Clay, as far as the size, are very similar. And I'm hope Brodus Clay can learn a thing or two from someone who's he's had some moments in his professional wrestling career. Uh, Now the Tensai character, I guess they got off to a good start, and then things that's just it just didn't work out. So now here he is under the character, you know, Funkasaurus, and you get Karen and Naomi. I mean, who knows how far this Funkasaurus character is going to go with Bruce Clay, but it's definitely giving him more buzz than the heel character he had when he was with Del Rio. So, WWE, they find a way to they find ways to give to change the characters when they know things don't work out the first time around. I mean, look at Skip Sheffield, now Ryback. Look at Johnny Curtis and now Fandango. Now of course they had to change their names. They had to change their names, but it worked out for them. Ryback is now going to be heading into, I believe, his fourth pay-per-view main event in over 6+ months. So again, primetime players lose to Tons of Funk. Then you got Jericho. What a match it was against Antonio Cesaro. Antonio Cesaro, such an underrated talent. I mean, I know people just don't look at him and think, look at that guy. But I'm telling you, Cesaro, he's coming from that Ring of Honor background, and just how he managed to go for the fast pace of Ring of Honor, the fast paced action to the not so fast tempo of WWE, or I guess depending on who he's facing, whether it's a Sin Cara or Rey Mysterio. But what impressed me about Cesaro is his strength. I mean, I know he can wrestle, but I didn't think he had that much. I didn't think he was known for his strength. Now, I guess maybe Ring of Honor, he didn't take on 260, 270, maybe 300, 400 pounds. He didn't take on great Khali's in Ring of Honor, but he impressed me with his strength, and it was unbelievable. Cesaro lost the U.S. title recently, and it's not slowing him down. I'll tell you that much. Cesaro is just working it, and I'm telling you, don't maybe he'll be a champion again. Maybe he'll go for the Intercontinental title. Who knows? But Cesaro, keep an eye on him on 2013 going forward. And I could definitely see him with another title reign. I'm not going to say world champion or WWE title. I'm not going to go that far just yet. But Intercontinental or U.S. title, I could definitely see Cesaro winning one of those titles later this year. But Jericho, say what you want about Jericho being the entertainer that he is, the rock star, the entertainer. But when Jericho, when he's in that ring, he knows how to light up the arena. He knows how to get the crowd going, whether he's a babyface or a heel. And I guess people just didn't like the last character he had when he was all dressed up and he was talking all, slowly, you know, he He was using big words. I guess people just didn't like that character. But look, I don't care if he's babyface or he heels. Long as I get that Ayatollah of rock and roller mentality that is Chris Jericho. As long as I get that guy. Remember in his WCW days and early in his WWE career, he had that in him. And he was definitely that when he became the undisputed champion, beating The Rock and Steve Austin. Uh, but I'll tell you what, man, regardless of where these wrestlers will go from here, whether it's Punk, whether it's Jericho, Cena, Orton, Big Show, you got some young talent, and this is the thing that makes me so impressed with WWE is that they know how to develop talent. Now, granted, TNA, you got your gut check winners, but so far, I just don't look at any of the gut check winners, with the exception of Taylor Hendricks, as someone that's going to break through. That's going to be big time in the next few years. Taylor Hendricks, the only person I'm talking gut check winners. Now, Joey Wine, he had a buzz, and then he's now kind of falling in the middle a little bit. But I will say this: maybe Jay Bradley, of all the gut check winners, maybe he can be something big, But Sam Shaw, Alex Silver, you know, they just need a little bit more work as far as I'm concerned. But WWE, they got plenty of new talent to keep an eye on in the next few years. So keep an eye on them. Caitlyn goes on to face Oksana. Match didn't last long, not a surprise, but Caitlyn did pick the victory. I always think of Caitlyn as a mini powerhouse. She's she's a mini powerhouse. She definitely hits hard, no matter who her opponent is. And of course, she getting some momentum. I honestly thought that she was gonna have the title match against AJ this past Sunday at Extreme Rules, but it ended up not happening. I believe Sheamus, Orton, and Del Rio pick up the victory to get some momentum heading into Extreme Rules. And now that I got that out the way, I now can get into Extreme Rules and start it off. Now, before I get into Extreme Rules, here's what's got me laughing at WWE is that they think ever since WrestleMania, they think they can just act like they're the NBA, the NFL with their pre-shows. I'm not talking about the matches. I'm talking about the commentary. Now, you got me with Stanford and Ross and Dusty Rhodes. Like, I can listen to Dusty Rhodes talk all day. And Kofi Kingston, considering Kofi didn't even have a match. And then for Extreme Rules, you got Renee Young, who's become the new analyst, commentator, I guess, ringside reporter or whatever. And then you got Ray Barrett. And here's the interesting about Ray Barrett. He's the Intercontinental Champion, and he didn't even have a match at Extreme Rules. So what's interesting, at the pre-show, he wore his Barrett Baywatch t-shirt, acting like he's going to be wrestled. And then later in the night, when they went back to Renee and the commentators, Ray Barrett ended up wearing some pink, looked like a pink shirt or whatever. It looked like a light pink shirt. So I don't know if he was told to change, or maybe he thought he was gonna have a match but ended up not having a match. But they crack me up about they thinking that they could have that atmosphere. Like, do you really think that a lot of people care about the pre-show that much? I mean, WWE's been doing its pre-shows since last year. Being on WWE is not good enough for them. They have to be on Facebook. They have to be on Yahoo. They have to be on all sorts of websites. I mean, I get it. You want to expand. You want to evolve. But you really think people... Now, I guess the only people that will really care is the people that probably can't afford to purchase the pay-per-view. I guess that may be the only reason why people do care. It's mainly because you got people that want to watch it, and they're not gonna pay for the pay per view. I guess that's my only exclamation. But you're not gonna trick me, WWE, with your pre-show acting like pre-show is all that anticipated and whatnot. It's just not to me. I mean, I watched it with my friend Andrew last week, and actually I missed the pre-show, but I did see they was going back to the commentators throughout the pay-per-view. Now, Miz went on to defeat Cody Rhodes, and obviously Miz did a movie. He filmed the movie. I think it was a Christmas movie he did. So he filmed the movie, right? And he talked about this movie. It's a Christmas film, and it's coming out later this year or in time for the holidays. So Miz with the victory. Now, my thoughts about the pay per view overall, it was an intense pay per view. Um, Maybe some of the wrestlers had a case of the WrestleMania hangover. Like when you get so caught up into WrestleMania, you want to be at your absolute best, and then a lot of people were. And then considering we have to wait a month and a half after WrestleMania just so that Extreme Rules can get in here, maybe some of the wrestlers look kind of flat to me. Um, Definitely, I will say this: Extreme Rules. I'm just gonna say it wasn't all that great, but it wasn't all that bad. Look, it's not going to be the pay per view that you're just going to get a bunch of 5-star matches. I will say that much. Um, a few matches stood out to me, and I'm going to get to those in just a moment. Now, Del Rio versus Swagger. It was originally supposed to be Ziggler versus Del Rio versus Swagger in a triple threat match, right? But Ziggler suffered a concussion thanks to Jack Swagger twice. On Monday, a couple of weeks back, I believe he shoved the letter into his head. And then on the SmackDown of the same week, they were fight Swagger and Ziggler was fighting for a letter, and let's just say Swagger went for a field goal kick and knocked them out. Now, like I said last week, concussions are something not to be messed with, not something to be taken for granted. Like if you get a concussion, that should be an automatically sit down. Don't put your fellow wrestlers back at there. And after what happened with Triple H from Extreme Rules into Raw, I'll definitely get to my thoughts on Triple H in just a moment. But Del Rio and Swagger, like once again, goes back to the whole atmosphere of other sports. Like when you see a bad call and the referees, not like in the NFL, when they when the coach sense that there's a bad call, they throw the challenge flag, and instant replay. Well, so what happened with Del Rio and Swagger was it was a brawl between those two. Ricardo got involved, Zed Coulter got involved. So I believe Swagger had Del Rio in a submission. And he went for the submission. Del Rio refused to say the words "I quit." So I believe Ricardo Rodriguez had the white towel. He was thinking of throwing the white flag, throwing the towel, and end the match because Del Rio was pretty much unconscious at that point. So Zeb Coulter knocks Ricardo out, throws in the towel. Referee sees the towel thrown. Now, last time I checked, this is supposed to be an "I quit" match. Like the match don't end until someone says "I quit." But I guess that's another way to win the "I quit" match. Is when the towel is thrown. Now, another referee comes into the ring and Swagger and Del Rio thinking they're gonna weasel their way out of St. Louis with the victory, but then they get into NFL mode and and check the replay and saw that it was Zeb Coulter who threw the towel instead of Ricardo, and the match ended up being restarted. And then Del Rio goes with the arm breaker, picks up the victory. Swagger ends up saying the words, "I quit." Then you got, it was a golden night for the Shield. Now, last week when I made my predictions, I said at least 2 out of 3 members was going to walk away with gold. I didn't think all 3 of them would. If you're not a believer in the Shield as far as their wrestling ability, you damn sure should be now. Ambrose defeated Kofi Kingston to become the United States Champion, while Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns ended the lengthy title reign of Team Hell No. And what made it interesting is that they did it without interference from the other member or members from the Shield. Like Dean Ambrose, he won fair and square on his own. Rollins and Reigns, they beat Team Hell No. They came in, not being the bigger guys. Kane can handle his own. Bryan can handle his own. But I really tend to think that Team Hell No, I look at them more as a duo than a tag team. Like, are you going to label them as tag team? That's all fine and dandy. But me personally, I think there needs to be a category called duos. Like, people want to act like Shawn Michaels and Triple H, members of DX, they were labeled a tag team. To me, they are a duo. You're not going to see them do a lot of tag team maneuvers. I think of the Dudley Boys as a tag team. I think of the Hardy Boys as a tag team. Edge and Christian as a tag team. The list goes on and on. I don't think Team Hell No are a tag team. They're more of a duo. 2 former world champions put together. Let's see how they go. And they brought us a lot of good memories last year, a lot of hilarious moments, especially with Dr. Shelby. Coming into Extreme Rules, they were the current longest reigning champions in the WWE, and then they ended up losing the belts. So let's see, as I look around here, who's the longest reigning champion right now? I'm guessing it's Ray Barrett. Ray Barrett has to be the current longest reigning champion right now. He's held on to the, well, actually, I take that back. It's not Ray Barrett because he had the title, lost it, they won it back. So it's not Ray Barrett. So let's see. I'm guessing maybe Caitlyn. She's held the title for over a month or 2 now. I guess I'll get back to y'all on that next week or so. I can't remember all this stuff off the top of the head, but damn it, I try. Let's see. Orton in his hometown, not surprised he was going to win that match. But Sheamus and Mark Henry, I thought there was no way that the Great White was going to pull through. I mean, this match favored Mark Henry, his size, and the fact that Sheamus would have to drag literally Mark Henry into those 4 corners, and yet the fella pulled through. Gotta hand it to him. I am a huge fan of Sheamus. I like his mentality. He's just in for a fight. It's just something about Irishmen. They just love to fight. They do not let up whatsoever. And the Celtic Warrior pulled through. I mean, and then that bro kick at the end was great. Then you also have Jericho even in the score with Fandango giving him his first defeat since the character change. And then Cena versus Ryback, or Triple H versus Brock Lesnar, excuse me. They broke the tie. Triple H introduced us to the sledgehammer, but it looked a lot different. It didn't look like your usual sledgehammer. It looked platinum. It looked silver. You know what? I like using the word platinum better because I'm a hip hop fan. People like to brag about platinum. The sledgehammer all these years has been just a typical sledgehammer. It went platinum. Too bad for Triple H. He didn't put it to use. He was unable to use it on Lesnar. It was Lesnar that used it on Triple H. White on the jaw nonetheless, and he picks up the victory. And now the score is Lesnar 2, Triple H 1. And then Cena versus Ryback. I mean, another main event for Ryback, and it was quite a brawl between those two. And every time when Extreme Rules has come around, something's got to happen to Cena. Like, remember what Big Show did to him? Choke slam him off that big old light bulb or whatever it was. And then Cena tied Batista's legs in the last man standing match. I think that was 2 years ago. Oh, and by the way, the match he had with Brock Lesnar last year, yeah, that was uneventful. And now, Ryback spears Cena. He pretty much went Wino. Remember when Wino speared Chris Jericho that nearly tore apart the set of SmackDown? That's what that looked like. Only there was some electrocution involved, and neither was standing. Now Ryback got up on his own power. Cena was on the verge of going to the ambulance. Cena said no. The match was ruled a no contest. Title cannot change hands in a last man standing match via double count out. No contest. We just call it a no contest, I guess. Cody Jones, any pro wrestler, will be calling in momentarily. I'll recap Raw, the main event and Impact a little bit later. And I'll give y'all an update on the Friday shows coming up starting next week. Due to Impact Wrestling's time change, and they just finished their last show at the 8 Eastern. Yeah, the 8 Eastern, the 7 Central time slot. And Cody Jones is calling right now. Let's get him on. I am now joined by my guest at this time, Cody Jones. He's with me right now. What's going on, Cody?
Nothing much. How's it going?
I'm doing good, and thank you for joining me on Triple Threat Wrestling Radio this evening.
Oh, man, thanks for having me.
All right, so let's go ahead and begin. How did your wrestling career got started?
Well, just started when roughly around when I was 13 years old. I was lucky and trained by my dad, Mr. Ebony Tom Jones. Not a lot of people get the opportunity, but when I was a kid, I'd go visit with him in Oklahoma, and every weekend he'd have training. So I'd go up there, and it started when I was, as I can remember, maybe like 9 or 10. And then I'd mess around in the ring, and then slowly I started learning the fundamentals. And then 13, I started training. And then 15, had my first match. And then 12 years later, or almost 12 years later, here I am now.
With that said, I mean, you've been around for over a decade, and you obviously have done a lot. I mean, did you ever thought that your wrestling career would make it this far?
No. The real reason, I mean, it baffles me how much I've done, but how little I've done. There's always so much to do in wrestling, and there's so much that I would love to do in wrestling. But I am grateful for what I've done and what I've added to my resume, and what fundamentals I've picked up, what lessons I've learned, who I've wrestled. But I don't dwell on what I've done. I try to focus on what I'm going to do, focus on bigger and better things, and make my legacy bigger and hopefully something better.
So let's go to your first match. Do you remember any things about it? Like who was your opponent? What company did you work for at the time?
My first match,
Yes, sir.
um, my first match technically was when I was 15, but it happened in Oklahoma, so it was a free show. And in the state of Oklahoma at the time, you have to, or even you have to be 17 to get a license. But back then, at free shows, the boxing commission didn't do anything about it. But my real technical first match was when I was 17. It was in Oklahoma City. It was with Mid South Wrestling Alliance. I think that's what they were called at the time. My dad was had a big part to do with that company. And my first match was against Dexter Hardaway. Um, I don't remember how the match went. I could tell you I had a ponytail, skinny, maybe 120, some cheesy looking orange pants, and some orange arm things. And I probably went out there and stunk the joint up, but I mean I got it under my belt and went further after that.
What was it like, working alongside with your dad? I mean, it's not often that you have a family member, especially dads, and then you know how sons and daughters like to follow the footsteps. I mean, what's it like, being in the wrestling business alongside with your dad?
It was difficult. It wasn't it wasn't like, oh, he's Tom's son and he's gonna do this. No, it was actually harder for me than most, I feel, because I had such big shoes to fill, and like, oh, he's Tom's son, he should know better, and it felt like to me that it was more difficult because I had such big shoes to fill.
So, how would you best describe your wrestling style? You look at yourself technically sound, a brawler, maybe a high flyer. What would best describe your wrestling style?
I would go. I'm very diverse in all styles. I can brawl, and I love physicality of wrestling. I love the technical aspect. I love the British style. I love the Japanese style, which is the strong style, and then the more technical style. I can high fly. Um, I I I can do it all. I mean, I've trained a little in lucha. It's I feel like I can do it all.
So, do you have any like upcoming shows, upcoming matches you would like to promote, Cody?
This Saturday, the 25th, I believe is the date. It's Colorado Springs, ATW Southern Championship Wrestling. They present Breaking Point. It'll be on GFL.TV. I'm not sure when the date maybe like a week or so after the show gets put on. And I'm wrestling their institutional champion for the title, Rob Bryson, which we've had our history over the last few months. So I'm looking to take his institutional title from him.
That's definitely will be interesting to see. Everybody go check that out. Support your local indie shows wherever you are, near you or maybe afar. You can promote them, show your support. Um, so, who do you consider as influences in your wrestling career, whether it's the indie scene or whether it's professionally? Who do you consider as influences?
Um, I'm a big Shawn Michaels fan. Like to me, he's the greatest wrestler of all time. Not only wrestler, he's got entertainer. He's a performer. Um, him, Chris Jericho's another one. I was actually just talking about him not too long ago. But like, there's nothing those two do in the ring it's wrong in my eyes. And they've done so much. Both of them, they've came up the same path that I'm trying to take is the independent scene or the territories in Shawn Michaels' case, going to going to Mexico, going to Japan, and then finally making it to the big times in WWE, and then making a name for himself. He's an influence. They're both influences. On the indie scene, I would go like a lot of people in Dragon Gate, like Ricochet. Pac's another one, or what's his name, Aaron or Adrian Neville now in NXT. He's a very very big influence because he did the same thing, worked the Indies and then up in WWE. Those are a few influences, and of course my dad. Without my dad, there would be there'd be no me. There'd be no Cody Jones.
Now, you live in the state of Texas, correct?
Yes.
And as you know, the state of Texas has built a lot of great wrestlers throughout the years. Like you pointed out, Shawn Michaels, Eddie Guerrero, the Funks, Devon Eriks. I mean, Steve Austin. The list goes on
Yep.
and on. I mean, they've become a staple of wrestlers being on the map. I mean, how do you feel about the success that all these Texan wrestlers have throughout the years?
I feel privileged to be from the state of Texas when it comes to the wrestling aspect. Because like you named, there's the Funks, the Von Erichs, the Freebirds, the Chris Adams, the Gino Hernandez, all the list goes on and on. It's I hope one day when I'm I guess retired that people can look at me in that same same category, if not close to it, because those are real big shoes to fill. Like Stone Cold, he went on to be one of the greatest superstars of all time. Shawn Michaels too. It's it's stuff like that intrigues me because it gives me a challenge. It gives me something to be like, okay, well I can shoot to be the best, if not the best I can be, and hopefully the best in people's eyes when they see me wrestle.
Now, you have done so much for, and you've been around for a long time. Um, I know this is going to be difficult, but what do you consider not just a highlight per se, but highlights? Like it could be like matches that you have had, it could be championships you've won, maybe storyline angles that you were a part of. What do you consider as highlights of your career that makes you look back? You know what? That was great, man. That was some huge moments for me. What highlights in your career stands out to you?
Um, let's see. The first time I won the NWA Southwest Junior Heavyweight Championship, I think I'm a five-time champion. That the first time was was a special moment to me. And then when I won the NWA Southwest Tag Team Championship, that was a special moment as well. Just because of the name of the NWA, it just holds so much legacy and so much meaning that if they see you as the top of that class, then it means something. To fast forward a little bit, I had a the match with Austin Benjamin in March, one of the highlights of my career, and then say March 30th, I think was the show. Me and a local guy here named Austin Riley, we built up a storyline. Loser leaves Amarillo, or loser never wrestled again in any fed. It was a cage match. Sold, packed the place. Like, I mean, it's a small venue. Most people they had almost 300 people, standing room only. It just the feeling that like I can't describe. Just thinking about it, I can't describe. You guys, I wish you guys could understand and feel how I feel. But it was just one of those moments that I'm always gonna remember. As long as I live, I'll never forget that moment and that time when that match happened, ended, and just it was unbelievable.
What do you like the most of being a wrestler? Is it the traveling? Is it interacting with the fans? Is it talking with your colleagues, is it anything that stands out to you? What do you like the most of being a wrestler?
I love all aspects of it. The physicality is obvious. It's going to be my favorite, I think, because it, you're going. People go out there and go through the motions to do what they do. If you don't feel it, like the physicality, the raw emotion. If you don't feel, if you don't believe what you're doing, then the fans don't. And if you get the fans to believe what you're doing, then it makes you feel good about what you're doing. The travel, I love the travel. You go into the road trips with whoever you're riding with, these stories. The fans, I love the fans. The just the outpour fans. They and then in my case with the advice, I like giving advice to the younger people that want to listen to it. Want to listen to it. I'm a 26-year-old guy. Most of these people are older than me, or if not, they don't. Most of them don't take me seriously. But the people that do, I appreciate it. The people that really want to learn and really want to better themselves in wrestling, I appreciate that because that's what wrestling needs is people that actually care about wrestling, not people that, oh, I'm just doing it because it's a hobby. Wrestling is a lifestyle. Wrestling's not a hobby. Wrestling's my life. Wrestling's in my blood. And I appreciate sharing it with people that care about it.
Speaking of advice, which is it's a pretty good segue to my next question. What would your advice be to anyone that wants to become a wrestler, that wants to make this a job, a lifestyle of theirs? What would your advice be?
Um, be prepared for struggles. Be prepared for failure. Be prepared for injuries. Be prepared for sacrifices because and be prepared to almost you to almost not have a not have emotion to not I don't know what I'm saying but wrestling because wrestling doesn't wait. Wrestling doesn't care if you have friends. Wrestling doesn't care if you have a family. Wrestling doesn't care if you have all these friends in the business. I'm not because friends in wrestling are hard to find. Friends in general are hard to find, but real friends in wrestling are very hard to find. Be prepared to almost be screwed over by wrestling, but you have to be strong. You have to fight through it if you really want to do it. If you really want to do it, it'll happen. You'll you'll push through it because you're gonna get knocked down. I've been knocked 12 years. I've been told no. I've been told, well, you need to work on this. I've been told, well, you know you're not tall enough, or your tattoos aren't gonna really, stand out, or your tattoos don't they look like crap. Oh, sorry, they're on me. My tattoos tell a story. But things like that, when you overcome those obstacles, you become a better person. You become a better wrestler.
It's pretty interesting when a lot of people like your size say, this, you're not gonna be a main guy. You're not gonna be like the face of a company or so forth. But wrestling nowadays is like it's not like the 1990s anymore when people rely on a 7 foot guy or a 300 pound or a heavyweight. I mean, people are now relying on CM Punk and Daniel Bryan. Guys that may not be the tallest guys, but they certainly know how to put a match together, and people are satisfied. I mean, that's just what it all boils down to. But I guess regardless of the size, as long as a company believes you can pull through, then anything's possible. But it's like it's
Yeah, not only a company, you have to believe in yourself too. Because if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe what you're doing, then why would a company believe in you?
well said, man. Well said. So, for people that wants to get in touch with you or learn more from your up and coming shows, why don't you go ahead and promote your social network links, Facebook, Twitter, or any other links out there people should check out?
Well, my Facebook is facebook.com/. Cody Jones. My Twitter is at real Cody Jones. You can message me, comment. I'll tweet me. I'll reply. If I don't reply, I'm probably busy, but I will get to you. I love interacting with the fans, and if you have any questions, advice, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to give advice from life experiences and whatnot.
At this point of your career, what else you would like to accomplish? I mean, you're 26-year old, and I mean, usually, you say you start at the age of 16. You're now 26, and 20s, being in your 20s, definitely a good thing, because and you still here, you're still standing, and you had your bumps in the road, but you're still here. But at this point, what are some other things you'd like to accomplish? Like, what are some goals you set for yourself?
Um, the main goal would be to get to WWE, which be everybody's goal in wrestling. But I would love to go to Japan. I would, just because I love the sport that still is Japanese wrestling. I'm not saying it's not a sport here, but it's more looked at as a sport in Japan. And I'd love to go to Mexico because it's almost the same thing. I'd love to go to Europe, um, in Germany, and all those places, just so that way I can better my craft and then take it into WWE if that's what wrestling takes me to. If I don't make it to WWE for any reason, if I get a career ending injury, God forbid that happens, I want people to know that I'm passionate, and I want them to see my matches and like, this guy believes in what he does and puts on a good show, and hope that they go home entertained.
Well,
That's
Cody,
all I want as a wrestler.
It was great talking to you. I want to thank you for being on the show, and I admire your passion and continued success, man. And hopefully, I'll see you on my TV screen, man. I mean, that would definitely
Man,
be awesome. But thank you for being on the
yes,
show. Best of success goes out to you.
thank you for having me on the show. Thank you for supporting indie wrestling. Thank you for supporting wrestling in general. Because without people like you, without the fans, there would be no wrestling. There'd be no us. Thank you.
Hey, I speak for all fans and say thank you and the wrestlers for what y'all do, for put your bodies on the line to entertain us on a weekly basis. We, the fans, we should be thanking you for what y'all do for a living. It's fun to watch. And
Thank you.
thank you for again, and you have a good night, man.
You too.
All right, bye bye.
Bye.
That was Cody Jones joining me here on Triple Threat Wrestling Radio. You know, that's a dude with passion right there. I definitely appreciate that, man. Like, and it's interesting, follow the dad's footsteps and made a name for himself, you know. But I definitely admire his passion. A lot of respect for him. So yeah, I just finished the Extreme Rules recap before Cody was on. So now I'm gonna go ahead and get into the Raw recap here. Ryback kicked things off, coming into an ambulance, and John Cena is still WWE Champion, but Cena was not there this past Monday night as he recovers. Ryback ran off to the fans, ran his mouth, and not only that, but he issued a challenge to John Cena for the WWE title at the new pay-per-view called Payback that taking place in Chicago, Illinois, and he challenged him to an ambulance match. And we'll see how that sorts out. No word on when Cena's coming back, but probably next week. You can't keep Cena down for long, so he'll definitely be there next week. Miz and Jericho defeated Barrett and Fandango. Fandango was he had other plans, obviously. Um, Miz and Jericho picks up the victory, but my favorite part is when Jericho was, flirting with Summer Rae and pretty much fool him the way that Summer Rae fooled the audience with her acting like she got hurt, sprained her ankle or whatever in that dance off a week prior. Randy Orton, selected by WWE fans via WWE app, faces Jack Swagger, picks up the victory. Sheamus goes on to defeat Titus O'Neil. Now, I know y'all heard Titus O'Neil. He dropped the F bomb. Emotion got the best of him, I guess. And come on. I know people want to bust WWE because of the PG rating. But hey, emotions sometimes they just get in the way. Titus O'Neil just had a moment, and I didn't hear the F bomb, but clearly the censor button person was ready, and I didn't hear it. I wonder if you guys hear it or not, but I know I didn't. Um, Biggie Langston defeated Del Rio with help from AJ, of course. The Shield defeated Kofi and Team Hell No. AJ Lee defeated Layla. Cody Rhodes defeated Zack Ryder. Oh, and by the way, Paul Heyman introduced his new client. And I know people thought it was going to be RVD, but he went with a younger talent. Former WWE Tag Team Champion Michael McGillicuddy, now known as Curtis Axel. Now, he's a third generation wrestler. His grandfather is Larry the Axe Hennig. His father is Kurt Hennig, aka Mr. Perfect. May he rest in peace. Um, I know people was like, I don't know about this guy. Well, I feel the same way. Especially being the third generation, there's a lot to live up to. Not only you gotta live up to your father and your grandfather, but you gotta live up to fellow third generation superstars like The Rock and Randy Orton. Their careers ended up pretty well, and both men for sure will be WWE Hall of Famers one day. Curtis Axel, the Michael McGillicuddy thing, he was with the Nexus. Then he was a tag team champion with David Otunga. Um, I believe he was part of the Nexus when CM Punk was in charge. So, and the way Barrett was in charge and CM Punk was in charge. So, being the Paul Heyman guy, he has a good eye for talent. Big Show, CM Punk, Brock Lesnar. Let's take it 1 week at a time with Curtis Axel. Let's see what he can do going forward. He got his first moment, reintroduction to say the least. Now, if he can have the buzz the way that Fandango and Ryback, as far as the recognition from the crowd, just go out there and perform. Maybe Paul Heyman may find himself a next big star in him. But let's not go that far just yet. Let's see what he can do going forward. And Triple H interrupt this reintroduction. Less than 100%, of course, from what was it? Extreme Rules. Now, Triple H, when he came out, he didn't look like he had any effects from the steel cage match, right? So with Triple H, he was recovering. Well, he wasn't really recovering. He acted like he wasn't hurt. But we all know that steel cage can hurt anybody, Triple H included. Now, Triple H got interrupted by Curtis Axel. He said, "You want to talk to Paul? You got to talk to me first." So Triple H said, you know what, young grasshopper, I'm going after you first, and then when I get through with you, he goes after Paul Heyman. Now that ended up being the main event, Triple H versus Curtis Axel. Turned out to be Triple H's first match on Raw in over 3 years, and let's just say it's something that Triple H would like to forget. So Triple H started off strong, got the best of the grasshopper. Everything looked fine at first, and then Triple H, I guess his vision got blurry, went out the wing, put some water on him, and then things just got gone from bad to worse. Doctors checked on him, referee checked on him, and he just wasn't able to continue with the match. Mike Chioda, the referee, just said, "Shut it down. That's it. Match is over." And obviously, still feeling the effects. Now Brock Lesnar hit him with the jaw. There's no way. Now it's interesting. Now I guess people wonder, is Triple H really hurt? I mean, the dude had a steel cage match, and he went up against Brock Lesnar, and he got hit in the jaw with that platinum sledgehammer. Yes, of course the man is hurt. And then we learned on main event, Michael Cole announced that he had post concussion. So it's funny. Dolph Ziggler had a concussion before Extreme Rules. Ended up not competing. Triple H has a concussion during the match. It came at the end. He went for the sledgehammer on the jaw. Now, and remember, doctors, some guy came to Triple H as he was getting ready for the match with Curtis Axel. He said, doctors not going to clear you to compete. Triple H said, hey, does the doctor love his job? Well, if he does, he's going to let me go out there and compete. Otherwise, he's going to be looking for another job. Well, Triple H, I don't know, man. Your last match should have been Hell in a Cell against Undertaker. But yet, you keep wanting to come back. And look where it got you. A concussion. Now, maybe he'll be back in time for Payback. But who will he face is the question. Axel or Lesnar or who knows? Maybe CM Punk, Mr. Shy-Time Native. Maybe he'll be a babyface and want to confront Axel. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. It's a possibility, though. Big E got a rematch against Del Rio. Del Rio got even with him. And the Usos defeated Min Hall and McIntyre 3MB, while Ryback made an appearance, attacked Heath Slater and sent him into the ambulance. And then came Impact, their last show at the 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Time slot starting next week. They are moving back to 9 East, 8 Central. Suicide made his return to Impact, went on to beat Petey Williams and Joey Ryan. He now would join, I believe, Sabin and King in a triple threat Slammiversary for the title. Anderson defeated Angle thanks to AJ Styles. We were supposed to have a match between Sam Shaw and Alex Silva, but Aces and Eights beat him down. Briscoe announced it. So Sam Shaw won by default. I'm not going to say forfeit, more like a default as far as I'm concerned. So Sam Shaw will head into Slammiversary and face Jay Bradley. He beat Christian York a week ago, and the winner of that match will be eligible to compete in the Bound for Glory series, which that will be the last pay per view of the TNA recently updated pay per view schedule. The Joker's Well is going on, and I guess I'm going to recap that next week since it's getting the end of that month. Let's see. Mickey James, for a third time, is the Knockouts champion, defeated Velvet Sky. James Storm announced that his tag team partner will be Gunner in that four-way for the tag team gold up against Chavo Hernandez, Austin Aries, and Bobby Roode, and Bad Influence. And damn, that's it. I just recapped it. AJ, yes, he did join Aces and Eights. It is official, and he smashed Angle with the hammer. So yeah, AJ Styles. I guess the Aces and Eights got phenomenal. Geez, how many more members do they need? Aces and Eights. It's gone more than 8 people at this point. I'm just saying, if you're gonna call yourself after a number, at least have, you know, 8 people, right? Like you had the Nexus that didn't call themselves a number. You had the core 4 people, right? If you're gonna name a group or a stable after a number, then have the actual amount of people. That's all I'm saying. If you're just aces and not a number, then you can have all them. You could be NWO for all I care. But I'm just saying. I'm just saying. And now I have recapped that. I'm gonna go ahead and get into this day in wrestling history on May 23rd. It was on this day in 2012 that the 6th season of NXT officially begins. Despite initially being referred to as Series 6, this version of NXT lost the competition element of past series in favor of becoming a standard television show featuring WWE developmental talent. In 1993, it's WCW Slam Bor a Legends reunion was held in Atlanta, Georgia, featuring the first inductee into the short-lived WCW Hall of Fame. The class of 93 were Mr. Wrestling 2, Lothez, Von Gagne, and Eddie Graham. Included in the pay-per-view is the Hollywood Blondes. Brian Pillman and Steve Austin defeated Those Hombres, that's Ricky Steamboat and Tom Zink, in the cage to retain the NWA and WCW tag team titles. Barry Windham defeat Arn Anderson to retain the NWA World title. Davey Boy Smith defeats Big Van Vader by DQ. Vader retains the WCW title. In one of the most emotional pay-per-views in the history of WWE came the WWF Over the Edge. It was held in Kansas City, Missouri. The event is infamous for the tragic death of Owen Hart. Vince McMahon made the decision to continue the show as what Owen would have wanted. Jim Ross announced his death to the television audience later in the show, but the live audience never was informed. Kane and X-Pac defeated D'Lo Brown and Mark Henry to retain the tag team titles. Al Snow and Hardcore Holly retained the Hardcore title. Rock defeated Triple H by DQ. And Undertaker defeated Steve Austin and Vince and Shane McMahon as guest referees to win the WWF title. In 2010 was the first Over the Limit. It was held in Detroit, Michigan. The event was unusual as most new events of the time were match specific. Kofi Kingston defeated Drew McIntyre to win the Intercontinental title. Rey Mysterio defeated CM Punk in a SES Pledge versus hair match, forcing Punk to shave his head. Hart Dynasty, D.H. Smith and Tyson Kidd defeated Chris Jericho and Miz to retain the tag team titles. Big Show defeats Swagger by DQ. Swagger retains the world title. Torres defeated Maurice to retain the Divas title. And John Cena defeats Batista in an I Quit match, which turned out to be Batista's last match of his WWE career. In 1981, title changes. The Von Erichs, David and Kevin, win the AJPW All Asia Tag Team titles. They defeated the Great Kojia and another person. I'm not even going to bother pronouncing his name. No disrespect. 1983, the Midnight Express, Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton defeated the Rock and Roll Express in a no DQ to win the MSW Tag Team titles. In 1992, Steve Austin defeats Barry Windham to win the WCW television title. In 2000 on Thunder, Kevin Nash defeated Jeff Jarrett and Scott Steiner in a triple threat to win the WCW World title. In 2011, the new Nexus, David Otunga and Michael McGillicuddy, now Curtis Axel, defeated Kane the Big Show to win the tag team titles. Happy birthday goes out to former TNA Tag Team and X Division Champion Alex Shelley, who turns 30. Current NXT wrestler Bray Wyatt at the age of 27. Today would have been the birthday of one-time NWA Women's Tag Team Champion Donna Cristiano at 71, and AWA Tag Team Champion Mitsu Arakawa at the age of 86. In memoriam, on this day, Wrestling World lost former Intercontinental and Tag Team Champion Owen Hart at the age of 34. So if he was Hart originally did not want to become a wrestler, but after failing to find a steady, enjoyable job, he began training at his father's dungeon and debuted for Stampede in 1986. 2 years in prison in Canada and Japan led to a WWF deal, for whom he debuted in 1989 as the masked superhero Blue Blazer. Following an uneventful 1-year run, Hart left the promotion, choosing to tour with the War under his real name and the Blue Blazer until losing the Blazer mask in Mexico. After a 5-match run in WCW in 1991, Hart returned to WWF, competing as part of the New Hart Foundation alongside Jim the Anvil Neidhart. The pair failed to get any momentum before Neidhart left the WWF, so Hart branched out on his own, feuding with his brother Bret in August of '94. Arn defeated his brother for the WWF title, though the match was restarted due to interference, and Bret retained the title. Following the '95 Royal Rumble, the brothers halted their feud, with Arn reuniting to the tag team division first alongside with the late Yokozuna, then the British Bulldog, and much later reunited with Bret. Following the Montreal Screwjob, Arn remained with WWF and feuded with Triple H over the European title. He had a brief stint with the Nation of Domination, another tag team one alongside Jeff Jarrett, and which saw the return of the Blue Blazer gimmick. Hart died at Over the Edge, competing as the Blue Blazer. Hart was scheduled to descend to the ring from the Raptors and the harmless. Details of the cause of the incident were sketchy at best. However, what is known as the harmless failed for some reason, causing Hart to fall nearly 80 feet, landing chest first on the top rope. He rushed to the hospital, but was pronounced dead on a revival on a massive internal bleeding. The WWF aired a tribute show Wars on the following night. You know, it's a sad day in the wrestling world, man. Don't take it for granted. And you wonder, man, like Brett's in the Hall of Fame. Who knows if, maybe the Hart Foundation, maybe Jim, maybe Owen, maybe Davy Boy. Owen Hart, in my eyes, should be inducted into the Hall of Fame someday. I hope soon. Maybe Brett can induct on behalf of him. Owen Hart was a talented performer. Sure, he was in the shadow of Brett, but he held his own. He held his own. He had a pretty good stint. And I just read that info from a website, girlrec.com. It's a day that wrestling fans will never forget. I was young, and I was like, what happened to Owen Hart? And then they broke, and then, I don't know, man, I was lost for words on that day as a wrestling fan, a very young wrestling fan. Want to say rest in peace, Owen Hart. Wrestling fans love you, and wrestling fans miss you. You were quite, I would say, he was definitely had the more charisma out of the Hart family. I will definitely say that. And he held his own as a competitor too. But as far as personality and charisma, I truly believe he had that over the rest of the Hart family. But he was a hell of a competitor too. May he rest in peace, Owen Hart. He would have been 44, I think 45 years old this year if he was still alive. That's especially for a guy that was just, that's too young in my eyes. As I end on a more peaceful note, again, I want to thank Cody Jones for joining me this evening. I admire his passion. Thank you, Cody, for joining me. And this will conclude our Thursday edition of Triple Threat Wrestling Radio. We'll make the move to Friday nights starting May 31st, a week from this Friday. We're going to be joined with Fozo Fury from Kentucky, a wrestler from WoW, Tavatek the Gamer, I believe, will be our guest. Second guest, Big Vicious in the second hour, and a wrestler named Charles West. I can also update y'all on who else I'm going to be interviewing in the month of June. June the 7th, Darcy Dixon. June the 14th, Paris Kelly returns to the show as we discuss her previous experience with Magnificent Ladies Wrestling and her second and last appearance of Magnificent Ladies Wrestling as they shut down the company. June 22nd is their last taping. Thomas Darnell will join me on the 21st. That's the day before the final tapings will take place. And with that said, Thursdays, it's been Will. Thank you for supporting us as a Thursday show since April 2011. I'm looking forward to Fridays. Get the weekend started Triple Threat Wrestling Radio style. And thank you all for listening. We'll see you next Friday, May 31st, 2 hours to kick things off on Friday nights. I'm Kenny C, your host, and I wish you all a fun, happy, and safe Memorial Day weekend. And while you enjoy the holiday weekend, either by your lonesome or with your family and friends, remember what Memorial Day is truly about. It's not a day just to have off from school, summer school, and work. It's a day to remember the men and women who fought and is no longer with us. The soldiers who sacrificed and is no longer with us. Remember that while you enjoy this holiday weekend. Again, I'm Kenny C, and I'm out. Have a safe weekend, everybody. See you next Friday. Triple Threat Wrestling Radio. I'm out.